The team leader's mind, they might think that they made a request, but for everybody else, it's fairly unclear because there's a couple of things that could happen. One is there could be multiple people who end up taking meeting notes when only one person is necessary, or nobody takes meeting notes, assuming that somebody else is going to take it. In either case, it's not a good outcome. Hi everyone, this is Sri Seshadri. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Agile Growth with Sri. This is a final video in the series on creating a culture of accountability. In the earlier videos, I've talked about the importance of intention clarity, role clarity, process clarity, and creating a feedback-rich culture. Today, I want to talk about that final piece, which is really crucial to creating a culture of accountability, which is having effective communication norms. When you think about what is accountability, we have talked about how it's around ownership, it's about somebody who is answerable and somebody who is explainable. So if you want to create a culture of accountability, you have to have an approach where commitments and agreements are made and kept. And if the commitments are not kept, they're dealt openly and constructively in a timely manner. So if you think about why is it important to have accountability on a team? When you have accountability, you see that there's greater efficiency, there's greater trust, there's greater collaboration, and there's a higher level of appreciation and energy across the team. On the flip side, when you lack accountability, there's basically a drag on the entire team where there's a lot of anxiety and worry if things are going to get done or not, and people are not able to be their most productive selves. So you might be wondering, why is communication norms really important to having a culture of accountability? If you think about the type of work that we all do, for most of us, a lot of our work is done through our speech acts or through our communication. Whether it is written communication or via email or messaging or, oral and so on and so forth. So being able to have the right type of communication norms is going to be crucial for you to have a high level of accountability within your organization. When we talk about communication norms, there's two things that you really want to pay attention to. One is about how do you make requests? Now, just imagine you're in a team meeting and the team leader says, hey, can somebody please take the meeting notes? The team leader's mind, they might think that they made a request, but for everybody else, it's fairly unclear because there's a couple of things that could happen. One is there could be multiple people who end up taking meeting notes when only one person is necessary, or nobody takes meeting notes, assuming that somebody else is going to take it. In either case, it's not a good outcome. If you could replace something like a request like that with something on the lines of, hey, Michael, in today's meeting, can you please take the meeting notes? And in next week, Susan's going to do it. And the week after that, I'm going to do it. That's a much more clear request, right? Where you said, Michael, I need you to take the meeting notes for today. That's the distinction versus can anybody take meeting notes versus Michael, I'd like for you to take meeting notes. One of the main distinctions around clear request is to understand that a clear request has four key components to it. One is it's actionable, it is specific, it's time-bound, and it's negotiable. So if you were to say, Michael, can you please take the meeting notes today? The action is very clear. It is very specific. You're talking about taking meeting notes. It's time-bound. You're talking about this meeting. And it's negotiable. Michael can come back and say, is it okay if somebody else takes it? I won't be in a position to take it right now. And then you can say, how do we resolve it? When a request is missing these pieces, you end up with what you call a soft ask. Now, a soft ask can create a lot of problems. Like the example that I gave you of hey, can somebody please take meeting notes? Wherein you may not get the outcome that you're looking for, or you might have too much energy and effort being expended when it wasn't necessary. So understanding the distinction between a clear request and a soft ask is really important. As a team coach, there's many times I'm observing how teams are communicating with each other. And I'm actually surprised how often people fall into the trap of making a soft ask. And when I ask them, why is it that you're doing this? Sometimes they just say, I just want to be nice. Now, with their intention of being nice, they're actually creating more challenges down the line. So what I would suggest is instead of trying to be nice, reframe it. Say that being clear is being kind. And if everybody does that, you'll see that the team works much more effectively and you get better outcomes. So as I mentioned, effective requests are actionable, they're specific, they're time-bound, and they're negotiable. What do I mean by that they're negotiable? When you make a request of someone, there's 4 possible responses you can get from them. The first possible response is I accept, wherein the requester accepts it and they're going to act on it. The second one is they say I decline. They say I'm not in a position to accept the request that you're making. Can you find somebody else to do it? The third one is a counteroffer. They might say, this is what you're asking me to do. I'm not able to do that, but I can do this. Would that be okay? You can talk and discuss and land somewhere. The fourth option is basically, instead of giving you a commitment right then, they might say, can I please have a little bit more time? And I'll come back to you with a response by, and they give you a certain timeline. So when I first introduced this concept to some teams, they're like, why does it need to be negotiable? This is a request. This is not a demand, right? There's some things that are non-negotiable. So imagine you work in an office where the working hours are 9 to 5. Those are the working hours. If somebody says, hey, I don't want to work 9 to 5, can I just come in for 3 hours a day? That's not really negotiable. Then, that doesn't really work with the contract that you have for the employment, right? Whereas what I'm talking about is, as you're going through the day and there's various things that need to get done, you are learning how to make clear requests and the other person to either accept it, decline it, counteroffer, or come back to you with an answer in the future. So having the negotiation is key to having clear requests. Without that, you actually end up with a demand. The other challenge of not having the negotiation piece is that they don't feel empowered anymore. They feel like the person making the request is actually making a demand, and they can seem kind of authoritative or dictatorial, right? Which does not really bode well for driving up their engagement. We have talked in a previous video about the importance of autonomy for motivation, right? When people don't have any kind of say in what they get to do, that kind of limits their motivation away. And so just being able to add that little piece to say, are you able to do this, can go a long way in driving engagement with your team. And also imagine somebody has a lot going on already, and then you're giving them one more task to do, and they're really not in a position to do it in the timeline that you're asking. And you don't give them the ability to decline it. They're going to take on that thing, and they might give you either a poor product or they might miss the deadline. And again, you're the one who's going to be surprised when, if you make the request and you allow for negotiation, you can get a clear answer in terms of what's possible. Now, if they say, I can't do it, at least you can discuss, can we reprioritize some things? And can this take priority over something else? And you can get it done in a timely fashion. There's 2 things that we have to really get good at, right? In terms of communication norms. One is a clear request versus making a soft ask. On the other end is making clear agreements. An agreement is basically a promise. It's a commitment. Now, what I've noticed with a lot of teams is, instead of having clear agreements, there's a lot of hedging that goes on. Somebody will say that this is what we need to do, and the person on the other side will give a vague response and use unclear language. They might say something like, I'll give it my best, I'll try to do my best, I'll give it a try, let's see if I can, it should be okay, let's see what happens. When you get those types of responses, that is not inspiring confidence in you. And if you accept that kind of a response, you're actually not creating a culture of accountability, because you're allowing people to you use kind of hedging language and make poor agreements, which won't be held up. What I would suggest instead is to drive for people to make clear agreements, wherein they say things like, I will do it, I commit to, I agree to, it'll be done, we agree to. That kind of language is really powerful, wherein they're making a promise, they're making a commitment, and they will actually follow through and deliver on that. Just to re-emphasize, if you want to create a culture of accountability, you have to have really effective communication norms, and it kind of falls into 2 buckets: being able to make clear requests versus soft asks, and making clear agreements versus hedging. Thank you so much for watching my video. I'd love to hear any questions or comments, and look out for my next video.